You can just leave it. Alright, so we're going to label them first. Remember, we're just doing primary and secondary. I always like to start with red. It's kind of like just a personal preference. It doesn't really matter if you start with red, as long as you keep your colors in the correct order. Alright. So I have red, orange, still going by that Roy G. Biv, yellow, green. Let's see if I can actually spell blue right today. And violet. Okay. So just so we can kind of see that, and this in here is going to be the tints. All right, it's going to be the lighter ones. All right, now this paint is pretty watery. Okay, it's thin. I've already said that because we're going to have to layer it. It's pretty thin. So when we are pouring it onto our mixing palette, I want you to make sure the lid is closed. Give it a good little shake. Okay, and you can kind of hear it moving around when you shake it. I kind of like to, just to make sure it doesn't come shooting out the top or something. One of my kids filled all these bottles up, so if they're like really full. Alright, and then we're going to take it, and I'm just going to give myself just a little bit. Honestly, it's not much bigger than a dime. And I can always go back and get more. Okay? You can always get more. Alright, so it's just a little bit. And then you could go ahead. This one feels really full. I feel like it's going to explode. Nope. You could go ahead and add out, if you know you're about to do just at your area, you can go ahead and start getting like the little dots of things. And just go ahead and have that out and then pass it to the next person. Or if you're the person waiting on the person on red, go ahead and pour a little bit of your yellow or something like that. And then I'm going to hold off on my white for right now. I can pour that in a second. And then for right now, you guys don't need any of the black. All right. You want to make sure you have paper towels at your seat. There's going to be 2 water cups on each table. You're going to want to have paper towels. They're over there. Or, oh, I forgot to give my roll away. I'll get that roll out of that dispenser because something funky has been going on with paper towels in the dispensers. I think they're the wrong size for our dispensers because they don't work very well. So, first thing is with tempera paint, you can go directly from a wet or a dry brush to your paint. Okay, you don't have to wet your brush, wet your paint like you would with maybe watercolor, things like that. So I can actually go directly in with my red, and I'm gonna go. Don't need a lot on my brush. Okay, I've touched my red paint one time, and I can go ahead and really spread that out over the entire section. Okay. I want you to notice how I kind of, at the beginning of moving it, or excuse me, I've moved my brush in kind of different directions, but to make it all look kind of cohesive, after I've covered all of it, I went back in like one direction to make it look more solid. Okay? So that's red. And then I would need to do at least 2 layers. So I'm going to let that dry. But I could go ahead and move on to my orange. Now with my orange, I know I'm going to have to mix what 2 colors? Red and yellow. Now, instead of just taking my red and yellow dots and just mixing them right here, when you're mixing your colors, what I want you to do is I want you to scoop up some and kind of put it in a different location. And then go back to wash your brush out. That's what I'm doing. You can't really see it on the screen, but washing my brush out. After I go to that water, I'm going to go to my paper towels and kind of just lightly kind of dab off any of that extra water. Okay, because we really don't want to water down tempera. And then, now I'm going to get some of my yellow paint and I'm going to put it near my red. It is not going to take a lot of red to turn that yellow into an orange. Okay, so you kind of have to keep that in mind when you're working with like yellow. It's not going to take a lot of that stronger color to do it. So I'm going to move some of my yellow down here. Now once you move things down here, it don't really matter if you wash your brushes off because it's only you that it's kind of you're playing with. All right. Oh, look at that. Man, I must be professional because that's a pretty good orange. You also want to make sure that you're mixing enough orange that you can create that tint. So I'm going to try, there's a lot of paint still on my brush, so I'm going to kind of wipe it off. And then I would come in to orange. Now it does dry pretty quick, like my red over here is almost pretty dry. And if you wanted to, you could go in and do all of your primaries first if you wanted to, and then start mixing your colors. It's really just kind of personal preference with how you want to work. And then just trying to get into all the spaces so we're not leaving any white spaces. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to do a second layer on that one. Okay. Now I think with this one, because I had to mix it here, I kind of spread out that paint a good bit, which means it's just going to dry pretty fast. I think I'm actually going to go ahead and create my tint for my orange, just because I don't want to waste that paint, and I can already tell it's drying pretty quick. So I'm going to take my white. I'm not going to put it directly on there. I'm going to put it up here at the top. Again, it's just like a little dollop. Like a little dollop of daisy. If you ever heard those old commercials. I don't think they make them anymore. Alright, I'm washing out my brush. Now I want you to notice that when I'm done washing out my brush, I'm not sitting here doing this. Okay, because all that's doing is like showering my podium with water. Okay, so if you need to kind of brush off the extra water, you can on the edge. Alright, I'm going to take my white. Yeah. I'm going to take my white and kind of put it near that orange. Then I'm going to scoop up my orange some, just from like this half of it, so I can still go back and do a second layer. It's like a perfect, like, it's almost like when you put ketchup and mayonnaise together. That's what it looks like to me. Y'all don't do that. Y'all don't put ketchup and mayonnaise together. I mean, that's the best way to eat Sonic's tater tots. Alright, filling in that section. Okay, so it's going to be lighter than it is on the outside. I'm going to come back in with a little bit more paint. Something that we just want to avoid when we're working with our tempera is we don't want to have a ton of like brush strokes, brush marks, like the direction of your brush. I shouldn't really be able to see it. Okay. Now my orange, because that layer I put down was so thin at the beginning, that's already dry. So I'm going to go ahead, so that this paint over here doesn't dry anymore, that original orange that I mixed, I'm going to go ahead, see if I can scoop some of that up to do a second layer. I might have to mix a little bit more to make it look a little bit more opaque. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to. I need a little bit, whoops, just a touch of red. Go back in my orange. That's looking better. Okay. Like I said, if you want to, you could go ahead and do all of the primaries, so red, yellow, and blue, and then start going back in and mixing for your secondaries. It is totally personal preference. Your lighter colors are going to probably require a little bit more layers to them, just because it just comes with the name of the game. Now, we're only working on computer paper right now, so we don't want to have a too wet of a brush, okay, because this paper is very thin. It will rip really easily, and we shouldn't be pushing down very hard with our brush, okay? We shouldn't be pushing down very hard. Now, again, so I'm kind of running out of yellow here, and so that's fine. That's why you're going to have the bottles at your table. Just get a little bit more, all right? I'd rather just have to get a little bit more out of our bottle than to waste a bunch of paint, okay? Than to waste a bunch of paint. So I could like take my yellow and kind of scoop some here to the side. I'm going to make my green real quick. I'm only going to need a little bit of green, okay? Every time I go to my water cup, I'm going to my paper towels to kind of get that extra liquid off. I'm going to touch just a little bit of blue, okay, not a lot, to go into my yellow. See, just that tiny little bit of blue made a big difference. Okay. I've got lots of paint on my brush right now, so I'm going to kind of wipe that off. When I go to put paint on my brush, it's called charging the brush, okay? It's called charging the brush or loading the brush. Try and create a nice, even application. Even if I start in different directions, I want to finish kind of with a nice, common direction, so that I can't really see like one area that's maybe thicker than the others or things like that. I'm just going to finish up this outside circle, and then you guys can start getting things set up, and then while you're working, I'll finish up the inside. Alright, so I'm going to move on to blue. Don't make it too hard, intermediate too. When you're doing your intermediates, it's all on the side. You're going to make sure when you're doing those double color names, you want it to kind of be like a 50-50 split of the colors, because if you were to put it on the color wheel, it's going to be exactly in the middle of the two colors that's named. And so we want it to be like a 50-50 split of it, okay? So like when I go to do red, orange in a little bit, it should be a little bit more red than this orange that's on my table, or on my wheel, okay? And my last one is violet, which is going to mix what two colors? Red, blue, good. Let's see. That's looking a little more red than I want to. That's better. Alright, then I'm going to take my violet and fill in this one. All of the brushes that are available for y'all are about the same size as I'm using. They're all about the same size as each other. So I might use it a little bit smaller, but it's not the end of the world. That's where I got that. Okay, so that's what your outside colors are going to look like. Let's see. I'm gonna do a blue-green real quick, because I got blue and green pretty well on here for my intermediate on the side. Okay, so what you'll do is the two colors that are listed, you'll scoop up your paint, and if you're done with like your second color, oh, I need more blue. Oops. Let me go back to my one bottle, get a little bit more. This blue-green is going to look kind of teal. Okay, it's going to look kind of teal. A little bit more blue. You can always, like, kind of, after you've mixed it, like I just did here, kind of pull it to the side and test it. And then I would just take that blue-green that I've mixed. I've loaded my brush, and I can go in and kind of fill in my side over here. It's looking a little blue. Probably should do a little bit more green mixed in there. I know it looks really dark up on the screen, but okay, so that's how we would do those on the side. Alright, so we'll do our outside is like normal, traditional colors. On the inside is going to be those tints. Okay? Alright. You get just a little bit, okay? Tiny little bit of black paint goes a long way. Look at that, red, black, and white, go dogs. All right, so first thing, right here smack dab in the middle is our hue. If you remember, your hue is that pure color, straight out of the tube, straight out of the cup, straight out of the jar, whatever you want to say. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, my red that is on my mixing palette, I'm going to apply it to my space right here. Having a nice even application is still important, all right? Okay, we shouldn't really see every single brush mark. I know with the size of our brushes, it might be a little hard to stay in that square, but just keep it close. All right, so I've got red right here. Looks good. Now, I can go either direction, okay? If I'm going this way to the right, I'm going to get darker. Okay, I'm going to get darker. So, I'm going to scoop up, scoot this over some so you guys can see it. I'm going to scoop up some red and kind of put it to the side right here. Now, one way you can kind of think about it is like, on this one, you could have like 25% black. This one, you could have like 50% black. And this one could be like 75% black. It's going to be really dark, but it shouldn't be just like solid black. All right, and then I'm going to add, again, just like the tiniest little touch of black. Okay, it's a little bit. And I'm going to mix it in here. That little bit of black makes a big difference. Okay, adding shade to a color creates a, oh man, I just said the word. Adding black to a color creates a shade. That's what I was trying to say. All right, now one thing you can do if you don't want to just like jump right in and put it in the box to see if it's too dark or not is you could kind of put like a little swatch above it and just kind of test it. I think this one's okay, so I'm just gonna go for it. Creates like this maroon color. Got a lot of paint on this brush. This is not the same brush I was using yesterday. It's holding on to that paint. Spread it out nice and even. Looks pretty good. All right, so now the next one is a little bit darker. So what I can do is add a little bit more black. So what I mix right here. I get a little bit more of the whole mix. A little bit of black. That's better. This brush is holding on to some paint today. And after the paint, kind of above. Oh, that's really close. I might get back to this one. Remember, if you are painting and you realize that it's maybe too close or not quite the shade you wanted, quite the color you wanted, if you let it dry, you can give it a layer on top and I'll fix it. It's a little bit darker. It's not quite what I wanted. So it's darker than paper. All right, now add a little bit more black to this. This is going to be our darkest shade. This is a terrible brush. Let's just come out. Woo. You can see what's in the paint. You can see the brush coming off. Get a little bit more. I'm not enjoying this brush. Ooh, your brush is going to take a while. Please let me know. I'm not using this. This is awful. Okay, you can see the darker. But there is a pretty smooth change in between. Alright, so now I'm going to go the other direction. Okay, I'm going to go the other direction. So as I go to the left, that last thing says a little bit of white. Alright, so I'm gradually going to add more white as I go to the left. So I got my cue right here. I'm going to scoop some of my red over here to the side. I might too much. Well, we'll see. I'm going to take my white. And I'm going to mix it in and get a nice pink. Okay. Let's see. Alright. I'm working on my brush today. Look at that paint something. I don't paint this thing. Alright, now I'm going to go in and I'm going to fill in my space. Okay. And we'll work the same way that we did our black. I'm working really good to get started. I'm going to add more white to that pink that I already created. Goodness gracious. It's all work. Getting lighter. And the last one is going to be a lot. Okay, you can kind of see what's here and go to my white spot. And that's one more white paint too. That's pretty light paint. Okay, so we have guys feel like changes from left to right as you go across. Alright, that's going to be our primary one. Alright, now for our secondary, you make your secondary color over here. I probably make about like a quarter size. The size of a quarter amount of your color. I'll take orange and make the size of a quarter and I'll paint over here. And I'll keep it pretty safe. Now I'll try and make whatever color you choose for your secondary color, make it one of the ones that's with intermediate. Okay, so if I was doing orange here, maybe my intermediate would be yellow, orange, or red. Alright, because I got orange mixed in. So we'll mix in our secondary color about a quarter amount, okay, size of a quarter. And then we'll do our secondary color by the same way. We'll mix it right here in the middle, and then start adding black and white. And then this one, we'll do our intermediate. You'll make your intermediate, that's right in the middle, make it lighter or darker. Okay? So if you have not already got your paint ready, go ahead and grab it from out there on the